Okay, we are going to be working on a fairly complicated shape, which is this axle. It has some fairly difficult geometry in it, so be prepared to sort of stop this video at any point so you can actually follow along step by step. If you try to watch this entire video and then do it, it's going to be incredibly difficult, so do it step by step with me. I'm going to create a part just like we have in every single video. Create a 2D sketch. And the first thing that I'm going to do is establish a center line. And we can see this right here is a center line, that dashed line. So I'm going to click center line, which is this icon right there. Click line. And I am going to draw a line 0.88 long. And you can see that is the overall dimension of this, 0.88. Now from there, I'm going to work on this vertical feature. I am going to draw a line, just throw it on there anywhere, straight up, and if I look at this, it is 0.40 in diameter, but that is talking that point to that point. So I can actually have Autodesk Inventor do some of the math for me. What I'm going to do is put 0.40 divided by 2. Which is going to give me the proper length. Now you'll see right there, I forgot to switch off the center line. That's no big deal. Click the center line or click that line, click off the center icon, and now it's a solid line. I'm going to locate this vertical feature the proper distance away. When I follow that feature up, it says 0.19 and 0.25 there. It doesn't actually give me an actual length measurement. Again, I'm going to let Autodesk Inventor do the math for me. I'm going to delete some of these measurements just to keep it fairly clean so you can see what I'm doing. I am going to dimension from the end point to there, change it to 0.25 plus 0.19, which is 0.25 plus 0.19, and it moves it to 0.440, which is the actual dimension. So at this point, we've got that vertical piece located, and we notice there's a horizontal piece which is 0.07. I am going to 0.07 it and go straight down there. Now for some reason it's still on the center line. Let's see. Take those to the solid line and click off that center line so it stops happening. Okay, so I know that you'll see this feature right here and you'll go, wait a second, that's not right. You're right, we're going to take care of that in a little bit later on towards the end of this actual drawing. Now I am going to locate 3 horizontal lines here. The first line is going to be this right here, which is 0.19 in diameter. So I'm going to click line, click on our origin, make it 0.88, just like so. And I am going to dimension this from the center line. Now a really cool thing happens when I actually dimension to the center line. Let me move this over so you can see. If I click dimension, click the end point of the line, and I click the end point of the center line, it will allow me to do some math here. So I have 0.19 divided by 2, and that takes me to the proper measurement right there. Now the next line, and let me delete some of these dimensions so I can keep it clean so you can actually see what I'm doing. My next line right there is 0.25, so that layer. So the same thing, start a line, take a 0.88, dimension this at 0.25. 0.25 divided by 2. And then third line, 0.29 divided by 2. right there. So I've got those lines in there, which is an excellent step. To keep this clean, I'm going to delete these dimensions so that you're not, seeing everything. I don't want the picture to get confusing for you. Okay, so now we've got these in here, and I can fix this feature right there. When we actually do the math, this piece down here is 0.01 away. So what I am going to do is draw a line just like that, and I am going to dimension it here to 0.06 rather than to 0.07. There you go. And then use the trim tool to take that out. Now that I have that piece in there, I can go ahead and trim the centerpiece right there. We want to try to do the work as we go here. Now that I have that center assembly done, I'm going to go over to the far left. Connect a line to the endpoints, because you can see that is closed right there. And then 0.05 over, I'm going to put another line. You zoom in so you can actually see everything. Dimension this 0.05. Okay, we've got that dimensioned from the point right there to there at 0.05. Now, when we look at the drawing, you can see that it's 0.01 away from the center line. So I'm going to put in another line right there and dimension that 0.01, which it is already. I'll just double check that, and it is good to go. From here, I am going to put an angled line from that intersection to the midpoint of that right there, because you can actually see that's what it does, from the 0.01 right there to the midsection of that feature. So the intersection to the intersection. I can trim the excess, which is that, and that line right there. I can even trim that little bit right there. Now at this point, I'm going to work on this this feature right here. Now something that's really interesting with the dimensioning, I showed you before regarding the math when we went point to point. If I dimension from the endpoint to the endpoint, you can see it gives me 0.095. But what I can also do is actually dimension from the center line to the line. And you can see that that goes towards the bottom, the imaginary actual diameter. So that's 0.190. That's something interesting that you can consider. Instead of entering point-to-point dimensions, like so, you could enter the center point dimensions, like so. Okay, so I have a feature which is 0.25 inches over at the 0.19 diameter mark. So I am going to locate a line right there. Then I'm going to dimension it from the endpoint to the line. So dimension, endpoint, line, and it is 0.25. So I'm going to change that to 0.25. And if that happens, which it does quite often, the dimension that you're trying to do is incorrect. What it did was actually extend the line, and I don't want to do that. So instead of dimensioning it to this endpoint, let me try dimensioning it to that endpoint. Okay, so I've got that from the end there. I'm going to trim off the excess, and again delete some of the dimensions to keep it clean so you can actually see what's going on. I can now do a little bit more trimming. I can trim that right there. And from here, I'm going to start working a little bit over on the right end. Okay, so doing a little bit of work on the right side here, I'm going to first close off this end because it is closed off right there. Like that. Draw this feature right there, which is the second line down, and dimension this. Now, I know that this overall piece is 0.88. I know that this is 0.05, so let's let Autodesk Inventor do some of the math for me. I'm going to dimension from this point to the line at 0.88 minus 0.05. And it snaps to it right there. Now I am able to do a little bit of trimming. Right there. Trim that. Trim that. Oh, zoom in. Trim that. Trim that. Trim that. Trim that. And I have pretty much everything. All of our actual physical attributes are accounted for, and it looks fairly decent. I'm going to finish this sketch and save it as Axle before I do anything else. Now that I've saved it, and it's a really good idea to save once you have your geometry made, it's time to actually just do the revolve. And click Revolve, which actually turns this round, and it's amazingly easy at that point. Click OK, and I have a finished axle right there. It has all the little intricate parts on it, all the geometry represented, and it is good to go. So stop this video, rewind and replay as many times as you need in order to get the geometry of the axle correct.